Hey guys, welcome back to my garage. Today we're working on that Cub Cadet 129 repower with this 18 horsepower twin cylinder Briggs. So we've got a few things done already that I did off camera, and I'll have you zoom in for that. All right, so one of the things we got done is we just built this frame for the engine out of angle iron. So I've got the front bolts sticking up. So we'll just put a nut on those to hold the engine in place. And on the back, need to get a good angle of that, I guess. The back, let's see, tough to see in there, I guess. But there's a hole back in here and then drilled a hole through the angle iron. So we'll just put a grade 8 bolt in there, put a nut on the top, and then you can crank it tight that way. On this one, on the front, I noticed when playing around with where this would go in the actual tractor that I would need to have bolts out because I won't have access to the bottom of my subframe. So I'll go show you what we got done on the tractor so far. But first, let's say hi to Hope. How's our three-legged dog doing today? She says she's doing okay. Right, Hopi? Right, Hope? So we're back at the tractor. And what we've got our new hydraulic pump mocked up. It's not hooked up yet. This pulley is not tightened down yet. It's just mocked up in our holder so we can adjust where we put the engine. It's going to be easier to lengthen or shorten the drive shaft than it is to move my whole mounting bracket for my hydraulic pump. So that's why I've mocked up the pump first, and then we'll put the engine in around that. So I hope that makes some sense. From here, you can see the power steering unit from a Cub Cadet 1812, I believe. Move that drive shaft out of the way. So we just welded in a bracket to hold this guy in place. And really nothing turns, but, oh, there we are. There it's turning. So, yeah. And then those lines up there, those hydraulic lines run back to the rear hydraulic pump on the tractor. And I see it on forums a lot, people asking if they can run a loader with their ported hydro pump on the rear end of these Cub Cadets. And the answer is no, you cannot. Doesn't have enough power. It's mainly made for a lift on the rear end or a lift on the front end if you're going to run a snowplow or snowblower or something like that, and to run power steering. They just don't have the power to run a loader. So anyway, let's get that subframe in here and try to mark out where that's going to go and see if I need to bolt it in or weld it in. I suspect I'm going to be welding it in because that'll give me a little bit more strength anyway. So, all right. And before I pull this engine out, from the edge of this angle iron to the center of the pulley is 2.5 inches. And that's important for us when we go to set this mount in place. So let's get this engine out of here and this mount and see if we can't get that into the tractor. All right, looks good. Let's weld it up. No, just kidding. Better take some extra measurements to do it right. So we need that 2.5 inches in the center of the pulley. That'll put us pretty much right there. Now I'm just gonna mark a line. Behind it. See if I can see that. Yep. Now we need to make sure it's centered left to right. And I've got 1 3/4 inches. And just over 2. So we're gonna try right there. What is that? Looks like 1 inch. (15/16) and 1 inch and 15/16. So we have found the forever home of our little subframe there. Oh. It looks to me that my best option is to probably weld here on the inside and right here. So I think what we'll do is we'll do 3 tack welds, one here, and one right here. And then once we've got a tack welded in, then we'll do our first fitment with the engine and see if we can get that in. But I don't want to lay big bead here and along here and have a huge pain in the butt to take it off if we need to readjust something. So, because there's a possibility the flywheel will be in the way of my power steering pump or vice versa. So we still may have to make adjustments. We might end up having to push the engine a lot forward, and we might end up doing what I don't want to do, which is relocating our hydraulic pump. So I guess we'll tack that in and go from there. So I took some measurements off the engine to figure out how much overhang I'm going to have. And then I did a couple test fits off camera. I knew I was going to be moving it in and out a lot. So now we're cutting away what we need to on the frame so that engine will sit into that subframe that we made perfect. And once I get that all cleaned up, we're good to go. So as you can see, we've got the frame all cut out. So now we're going to work on a support for the frame that's welded here, comes over and welds in over here to really beef that up. We're going to do that on both sides. And our subframe for our engine, obviously right here. These 2 bolts come right through the front bottom plate of the motor. And then we've got holes here to put a bolt in to bolt that engine down. So now what I'm going to do is come in with a wire wheel and clean this up real good. And then we're going to weld the heck out of this so this whole deal does not move and will support our motor very easily. So once we get that welded up and then painted, then like I just said, we'll work on our supports here. We'll have to scrape this paint off, sand it off, wire wheel it off, whatever. Put in our supports, paint it, and then that'll be done. And then the other welding project that I need to figure out is a support arm that goes from these pillars down. So my initial thought is to go from that pillar down to the support that I'm going to build in here, or from that pillar down to here down to the subframe. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So stay tuned. If you got a moment, hit that like for me. I'd really appreciate it.